Designer's Cafe.
Let's start by looking at our trim command. I can get this command from the tool panel. I can enter it from the keyboard as trim, or I can use its keyboard alias of tr, enter, to begin the trim command. And the first thing it wants me to do, if I look at my settings down here in the command line, it says that projection equals UCS and edge equals none. Select my cutting edges. And so I have to select a boundary that will act as the cutting edge of my trim. So in the case of this, let's look at this object right here. I want to trim off the ends of these little lines. So the first thing I have to do is click on this line to act as a boundary, and then I'll hit enter. And now it says to select the objects that I'm going to trim. So if I wanted to trim these objects off, I'd click on this side of the line, and you notice that it's trimmed back to meet that line. So if I wanted to trim off this side of the line, I would click it on this side and it would trim it back to meet that boundary edge. One thing that needs to be clear about how trim operates, if I go on this side, you see this small line segment that's left that meets the boundary edge. If I click on that to trim it, nothing happens. Trim does not act as an erase command. If there's only one line segment and it merely touches the boundary edge or the cutting edge, it's not going to be erased. I do have an erase command available, so I can right click the mouse, and on my shortcut menu you'll find erase that you can use, and you can select objects, then hit enter or right click, and it carries out that erase command, and you notice that it doesn't interrupt my trim command. So my trim command can evoke erase, and it acts transparently. Let's look at a situation where I choose more than one cutting edge. I'll choose trim, and I'm going to choose this line and the circle as being the cutting edge, and I'll hit enter to end my selection. If I wanted to trim this line, for example, I can click on this side and it trims it to this boundary edge. If I click over here inside the circle, you notice it trims it back to the boundary edge of the circle. Once those trims are made, I can't get rid of that middle part by using the trim command. That would have to be erased. So the order that you choose the objects is important. For example, if I came down here, if I wanted to get rid of this side, this line, and I chose the middle, I've trimmed this back to this boundary edge, but I've left this segment inside the circle, and I can't necessarily erase that right off. I'm going to undo, and you'll notice that it will undo the last trim that I made so that I can do it again. This time I'm going to start over here, and I would have to make those two trims, and that doesn't leave any pieces that still need to be erased. Another option that I have when I choose my trim command is, you'll notice that on the command line down here, select objects, or in brackets it says select all. So if I hit enter on the keyboard without selecting any boundary edge or cutting edge, then every line becomes a cutting edge. That means that whenever I click on a line, it's going to be trimmed back to the boundary of any other object that it encounters. So with everything as a cutting edge, then every intersection becomes the point at which an object will be trimmed.